Okay, I'm laying in bed reading Nikki Giovanni's A Good Cry, What We Learn from Laughter and Tears. And I just came across the poem, The Past, the Present, and the Future. And my favorite Nikki Giovanni poem of all time is Ego Tripping, because I have a big ego, and that, I mean, she put that thing down. So if you've never read it or never heard her recite it, or anyone else, check it out. Nikki Giovanni, Ego Tripping. I love that poem. It is like black girl magic to the thousandth power, long before we had hashtags and catchphrases. Um, so that's my favorite poem ever. But my second favorite Nikki Giovanni poem is Quilting the Black Eyed Pea, We're Going to Mars. Because for some reason, Nikki Giovanni has this fascination with space travel. And she did an interview about it. I haven't listened to it, but she just is really fascinated with space travel. And in Quilting the Black Eyed Pea, which is also something you should definitely read for yourself or listen to her read. Um, the thing that gets me about that poem is that she likens a trip for Earthlings to Mars as a trip of Africans being enslaved and coming to the Americas, and what happens during Middle Passage, and how we as a race of people survive that. And, the decisions we had to make as to whether we wanted to survive that or not. And that, I mean, Middle Passage has always gotten me about the slave trade. That to me is the hardest part of the history that I learned about myself, that it really bothers me. I mean, brings me to tears. I can't even, the first time that I read Quilting the Black Eyed Pea, We're Going to Mars, by the time I got done, I was crying like a baby. I couldn't even see the words on the page for tears. But as I said, I was just reading The Past, the Present, and the Future in the new book. And it kind of, to me, is like a part two of Quilting the Black Eyed Pea, We're Going to Mars. So I wanted to read it. Now I'm reading, not like reciting, or I'm just reading it from the book. So it will sound like I'm reading it from the book. So it's not like I'm, agree, spit some serious poetry. I don't know it. I just read it and I wanted to share it. So here it is, Nikki Giovanni, The Past, the Present, and the Future, from A Good Cry, What We Learned from Tears and Laughter. There is really nothing we can do about the past. We cannot be unraped. We cannot, or at least should not, take back degrees because we no longer like the person. There can be no justice, only revenge. We can't undo statues or Confederates who tried to dissolve the United States because they didn't believe all people are created equal. It came, after all, on a midnight clear, and we worship the manger, not the cross. Though we should not fly, with the losers fly, how dumb can we be? We cannot undo the past, not the people who kidnapped, not the people who sold nor bought, not the ships in which we languished, nor the buses upon which we had to stand, while others took our seats until one woman said no. We stand for the future. We embrace peace, not mongers for war. We cannot undo the past. We can build the future. Where, when we go to Mars, we send a black woman because she will make friends and sing a song with them. When we go to Pluto, which will be again a planet, we send black children to learn to ski. When we decide it is time to thank the deity for our food, our shelter, our health, we will all, no matter which ideology, wrap our arms around each other and be glad we live at this time on this earth. So that really resounded to me because, like I said, it kind of picked up where she left off with Quilting the Black Eyed Pea, We're Going to Mars. Because in everything that she does is always there's a lecture. She's a teacher, she's a college professor, and she gives you a lesson and always gives you something to think about. And in thinking about this past, and especially the first stanza about Bill Cosby, really touched me, because y'all know how I feel about Bill Cosby, and I'm upset about that whole entire situation. But I also just had a conversation with a friend about statues. Um, for those of you who don't know, I live in Easton, Maryland, which is in Talbot County. And, so we are home to Frederick Douglass. And Harriet Tubman, not too far away in Dorchester County, and some of my family is her family. So we have some deep roots in our history here in Maryland and in Talbot County. And there is a statue called the Talbot Boys that sits on the courthouse lawn. And the Talbot Boys statue is in honor of young soldiers who fought in the Civil War. And there's a petition to have that statue taken down. And right across from that statue is a beautiful and wonderful statue of Frederick Douglass. And my position on that is, first of all, there's no need to take down the Talbot Boy statue. Why would you demolish it? Because it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change that they may have stood for racism and hate and that they fought for slavery. It doesn't change that they may not have, and that they could have just been young boys forced to fight a war. And tearing that statue down doesn't change the past, doesn't change any evil, hateful thing that was ever done in this county, in this country, to my people. So what's the point? Moreover, when they initially said that the statue needed to be taken down because it promotes racism and hatred and a past that we want to separate ourselves from, those who support the Talbot Boys statue as a reminder of their history and the heritage of their ancestors said, get rid of the Frederick Douglass statue. And a friend said, if you're saying taking down the Talbot Boys statue does not erase what it stood for, why would you care if they take down Frederick Douglass? Because that doesn't erase what he stood for. My answer to that is because if you want to take down the Talbot Boys statue so that hatred doesn't win, and those in favor of the Talbot Boys statue remaining find some way to have the Frederick Douglass statue demolished, hate still wins, because that would be the only reason for doing it. So I said I'd rather lose that small battle and win the war. The war being racism, pretty much. And I mean, you can't change what's in somebody's mind. You can't change what's in somebody's heart. You can only educate them and let them make their own mind and decisions, because we understand that racism is taught. So some people are taught these things from a very young age, that people of different hues and genetic backgrounds are inferior to them for no other reason than the color of their skin, which of course is nonsense. But if that's what you're taught from the cradle, then it's something that's an ideology that's really hard to get rid of. And some people, despite, and I've seen this with my own eyes and in people that I know personally, some people who are taught that reject it. And that is just a beautiful thing. Some kids have been able to say, my mother or father or my grandmother or my grandfather tell me this, but I go to school and I play with this person whom my family says I shouldn't because they're this, and I notice that they're not this, they're that. And so I'm going to make my own mind up about who are going to be my friends and how I'm going to think and how I'm going to treat people. And that is beautiful, but not everybody is that powerful. Some people believe what they're taught. And so we're fighting these wars about taking down Confederate statues and the flags and this, that, and the other. And I was born in Virginia, so Dixie, they live for that Confederate flag. It's everywhere you go in Virginia. And they could get rid of it, and it won't change anything. It won't change the mindset, and it won't change the behavior, and it won't change the history. So let's educate ourselves and try to move forward as the human race, as opposed to these factions and divisions. Yes, I'm always going to be black. I love being black. It's beautiful. We do a lot of stuff. We cook good, we dance, we make good music. Every cool thing that was ever started, we did. So, I'm cool with that, but at the same time, I'm a human and I have friends and family of different races and hues and religious backgrounds. And I just am so grateful that while some people were being taught hate, I was being taught love, and I try to pass that down to my own son. So I don't see people, and we had this conversation along with a statue thing about not seeing color. I don't see color. I see people. I don't see people for their race or their religion or their background or their history or their ancestors. I see them for them. I treat you how you treat me. If you're cool, I'm cool. If you're an asshole, I'm an asshole, and normally a bigger one, so I'll win. But that's just how it is. That's how I am. And I just wish that we all, as the human race, could see each other that way. See each other, you know, as Martin Luther King said, for the content of our character, because that's what's important. And in the end, that's what's going to stand.